G'day guys, it's Mark here from the Pushworth Group, here for the music reel with Nikki and Michael. And today we are going to be chatting about agreements, why we have agreements, why we put them in place, why they have any purpose whatsoever. I suppose agreements all begin with how we register acts to begin with. I know that a lot of you guys out there, don't like dotting the I's, crossing the T's, giving away all that information. But for us, that initial registration process is absolutely everything. We need to know who you are. We need to know where you live. We need to know your bank account details so we can actually pay you. We need to make sure things like your ABN number it's constant. It's not changed. There's so many things that can be variables in the industry. So making sure that we have all that information to begin with 100% means that down the line, there's no issues, there's no dramas, there's no trip ups. We want to make sure that we've got the right information so that when these contracts get sent out to venues and people in head office are doing payments, that yet again, ABNs match up and we don't have payment issues where they're like, this one doesn't make sense, we have to hold it off, etc., etc. So to begin with, that initial paperwork is God for us. Having that information on hand and actually, as we said, being able to pay you when we get paid is probably one of the most important things in the industry.
And obviously the reason why we've had to develop the registration process is we get contacted by a lot of government agencies for a variety of reasons. And we've got to be able to demonstrate to them that we have got confidentiality and privacy processes in place. We want to protect your data and your information. So we've got accountabilities that we need to meet. We've got compliances that we need to meet. And as Mark said, the most important thing is to make sure you get paid. And I guess that's that whole GST registration thing. When you change that and you don't let us know, it can become quite challenging for a venue when they check the ABN lookup and your GST registration has changed, but it doesn't match, what we've given them. Then it becomes a bit of a prickly pear. So that's why we're sort of so pedantic about it, because the number one thing for us is to get you guys paid. So Michael, the contracts that you want to talk about are what, band in your band? So when you've got people working with you as a band, that's what you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, it's a part of playing in a band that's usually overlooked, especially if you're the guy that organises. Say you're in a four-piece band and you're the guy that speaks to the agent and it's your bank account that the money goes into and all that sort of thing. It's really important to have an agreement in place with your guys, just so that they know the process and they know exactly what's happening. Firstly, for payments and all that sort of thing and how that's going to happen, but also actually setting up an agreement with your guys. So, because you're not their employer. If you set up your band so you're their employer and you pay them superannuation, you pay the tax and do that for them, that's totally up to you. 99.999% of all bands, they get paid and the money is distributed to each member. You send us an invoice, your player sends you an invoice, and you do it that way. Now, they're essentially subcontractors to you. What you actually need to do with it's something that's really overlooked and something all acts should really do is do an agreement so that they sign and they're aware that yes, they are a subcontractor, which essentially protects you in the event that they come back to you or another agency comes back, government agency comes back to you and says, oh, this person says that you're their employer. You go, no, I've never paid them, blah, blah, blah. If you have that in place, that just covers you to not maybe 15 years down the road or 5 years or whenever have to go and then go, oh, crap, we're going to pay tax, we're going to pay super on behalf of that person. So it's just important to have those agreements in place. And I know that music is fun and I know that music is art and all that sort of thing, but music is a business too. So you need to treat everything that you do like a business, because this is a business.
And as Michael said, look, it is a business, and I can't tell you how many times we've had a phone call from someone who's in the band who hasn't actually been the principal of the band, who's rung up and said, oh, look, the lead guy, he's left, the band's broken up, and we haven't been paid for the last year, so we just want to know where we're at with payments. So the challenge with that is if you don't have an internal band agreement It's really hard for you guys to then step in to then have an audit of the accounts to see what's happened with that, to make sure that the right person has authority to speak to us. Because, you know, another reason why we've got the registration is you've got one authorized person to call us to send the invoices, to receive the payment. Now, say for example, maybe the wife of one of the guys does the accounts. Maybe they have a bust up. This has happened to us before. We've got to make sure that you tell us that, so that we're not giving out the wrong information to the wrong person, which is why we have that registration. So registration, clear up who's responsible for what. And as Michael said, have that internal band agreement so that everyone knows where they're at. Because you're all subcontractors, you're all self-employed, and it's how you work together in a business to make sure that everyone's got everything covered. Because believe me, after the last 30 years, anything that can go wrong, we've seen it. And that's why we have these agreements and registrations in place, to protect you. So we're going to put some, I've got some draft band agreements that I'll put a link to that in this, just so you can get an idea of how you can actually structure your band. And I'm talking duos as well. I'm talking, it could be just a solo person who's working with a production person all the time. Anyone you're working with in your music business, make sure you mean business by setting out the terms and conditions of how it's going to be. And you guys negotiate and you agree on it together. And it's a partnership. You might get to the end of 12 months and go, all right, we might change this around, add this, delete that, whatever. I mean, Michael, you would have adjusted your band agreements a few times by now, I'm sure. So we have a saying in the Pushworth office, every time it fucks up, it's a really great opportunity, because it means you can upgrade your processes. So, you know, we want you to upgrade your processes. So I guess I hope that we've got you thinking today about agreements. There's so much to talk about. This is primarily with covers, but I guess originals with, you know, an agency agreement, a management agreement, an agreement with your label, an agreement with your publicist, and make sure you've got a really good lawyer and accountant that can check that with you. So I want you to start thinking. Listen to these guys. They've had to deal with a lot of issues, you know, over their careers, and having a good registration process and a good agreement really puts you in good stead for your business. So that's all from us for this one. We'll see you next time.
Bye.